Wow, that was a very strange transition. But welcome everyone to a brand new live stream. I'm going to be answering questions because I have my trusty laptop and a microphone that I think can hear me. Let me know if you can't. And I will be taking your questions today, which I already see are in the chat. So some people started ahead of time, and I'm going to answer them. I have answers for App Store optimization and Apple search ads because, as you probably know, if you've been listening to me, they're starting to work together. So ask me what you want very soon. But first, let's start with tradition. Tell me what's in your cup and where you're from as we wait for people to shuffle in. I am drinking, what am I drinking? I'm drinking Earl Grey tea. I'm back to standard out of my Appfigures mug, and I'm here in New York City. I think it's kind of nice outside. My windows are all closed because it's a studio. So I don't know. I hope it's nice outside. Tell me where you're from, what's in your cup, and we're going to get started very, very soon. Let me find my window with all the comments so I can see what you're saying. Ooh, wow, I see a lot of questions already. Mostly just questions. What's in your cup, people? What's in your cup? We'll start with that. Ooh, licorice tea. Interesting choice for a Wednesday. Well, morning here. You're based in the UK, so it's a little bit different. Green tea. There we go. Water in Germany. Nice. Romania. An empty coffee cup from Austria. I would say maybe get another one, but I've also started to, or I stopped drinking coffee a while back. So maybe don't get another one. We'll see. It's really up to you. France. Hello, France. And again, we're international. As always, I want to say, as always. So the plan today is I'm going to take your questions. I'm going to bring them up on the screen, and then I'm going to do my best to answer them. I have my computer, so if we have any questions that need additional information, like looking them up in Keyword Inspector, my favorite tool, which has gotten significantly faster. I don't know if you noticed, if you use it as much as I do. We've done a ton of work under the hood, and soon enough, I'll even announce it officially as we add more stuff on the front end for you to see. So, interesting stuff coming up. I will constantly lose my mouse. That's normal for this sort of production. If you saw how many screens I have in front of me, you would get confused too. So, let's take a look and see how the stream is going, and if we're ready to go and start taking questions. One of my screens will tell me that, I think. Let's see, maybe it's this one. This one. Yep, stream is looking good. Everything is happening. I'll remind you that you should definitely follow my channel if you like this sort of thing. Plus, you also need to do that if you want to write in the chat. So go ahead and do that quickly so you can chat. And before I forget, and I will definitely forget, make sure you give this video a like. I'm counting the likes. So the more, the better. But also the more YouTube sees this, and the more YouTube sees this, the more they see me, and the more I get the sort of publicity, and that's exactly what I want for the channel. So just like App Store optimization, ratings are the currency for ranking. That's crazy, right? That's crazy. And with that, let's start and take some questions. Let's see what I have on my screen. So there's a lot going on. We'll start with an easy one, what I think is easy. So Philip is asking, well, this is a very long question, so long it gets cut off. Hi Ariel, my competitor averages 10 ratings per month. How many additional ratings per month would be needed to make a noticeable impact on ranking? We have average of 70 ratings and rank below him. So I keep saying that ratings are the currency for App Store optimization, and they are, but they're not the only thing. The way you optimize your keywords, the way your name, your subtitle, and your keyword list for the App Store specifically, is really as important as the number of ratings. So if this competitor is doing something a little bit better, and I don't know the keyword, maybe you can drop the keyword in the chat and I'll get back to it later and we'll load it up in Keyword Inspector and see what it looks like. But if your keyword optimization is not as good, you run the risk of the algorithm seeing them as more important. So even if you have more ratings, the algorithm won't necessarily see you, and that's really why you wouldn't rank as much as they do. It's all about that as well. There's also another element to this, which is conversion. We'll get to that in a little bit. More of an advanced topic. So if you can drop the keyword in the chat, I'll get to it, and I'll try to look it up and see what it looks like. Okay, next. Sandor saying, struggling with ASO in a competitive category. That's unfortunately normal. Appfigures shows most keywords take 95 plus competitiveness, popularity greater than 5. Should I focus on lower popularity, under 5 keywords, or still target higher? So here's the trick to keyword competitiveness, the competitive score, and the popularity score. They're both really good scores for you to understand what you're up against and for you to aim. So if you can find a high popularity score with a low competitiveness score, definitely go for it. That's really the way to go. But if you can't, and that's becoming more and more normal because more people are doing app store optimization and more keywords are being used, you don't have to go just off of the competitiveness score. Use it as a way to rank which keywords you should target first. So still go after higher popularity keywords as long as you can compete in them. And when I say that, I mean if you have the right number of ratings, as we just saw, if you have the ability to make sure that your keywords are in the name properly, in the keyword list, in the subtitle, you optimize that very well, then you can go and target slightly higher popularity keywords than what you might if you didn't. So again, I don't really know the keywords, which if you have a question for me that includes a keyword, please drop it in the chat. Make it easier for me to actually follow along. But that's kind of the idea. Keyword optimization first, rating second. If you can't have the ratings for a specific keyword, keyword optimization for a keyword that you can have the ratings for. That's kind of the idea. Okay. Philip followed up. My app is called Canvas Max. I'm trying to rank for the keyword infinite zoom and infinite zoom art for iPad. Could you check out why I'm not ranking for infinite zoom? Well, let's take a look. I actually can. So let's switch to my computer where you can see this. And let me take off the chat so we can see the entire screen. And our keyword is infinite zoom. Is that how you spell infinite? Yes. So infinite zoom, a popularity of 32. And look how fast this is. If you've seen my live streams, you know that it was a little bit slower. A lot of this happens in real time. That's why normally it takes time to load up. But man, this is really, really fast. The team has done an amazing job to make this happen. Okay, so infinite zoom and Philip's app is Canvas. Canvas Max, which I believe is this. If that's not the case, please let me know in the chat. But let's see what's going on here. So DPR is pretty good. I like that. I don't know about this, and I don't know about this. I see what you mean. This is definitely a little bit questionable. Also, look at those. This is a good reminder. I'll highlight this so you can see it. A good reminder that it doesn't really matter what your actual average ratings are. It really matters how many ratings you have, which does not even seem to be the case here based on what I'm seeing. So a few questions that I have for you, Philip, is do you have any sort of duplication, meaning do you have the keyword zoom or infinite in your, maybe in the keyword list specifically? I don't see it here. I'm not entirely sure what this subtitle is, but that's a whole other question for a different time. So let's see. Let's see what I see here. I definitely see what you mean here. This is confusing. I bet you something is going on. If this keyword is not in your keyword list, do let me know. No duplication. Okay, I see that in the chat. So no duplication. An interesting one. I would definitely have to take a closer look. The one thing that I see, and that is a really kind of a weird thing that I've seen over time looking at a million of these keywords, is if you look at the categories. So if you look at the categories for these two apps, they're both in the games categories. Puzzle and trivia are game subcategories. And so, and this is productivity. And then we get to graphics and design. But then you see all these games, casual, these are game subcategories. Shopping is not. And that tells me that something that I've seen over time is that the algorithm tends to associate some keywords with some categories. In most cases, it gets it wrong. It gets it right, not wrong. But in some categories, in some instances, for some keywords, it may be a little bit confused. And so if an app that had infinity or infinite was a winner inside of that category, inside of games, for example, that would associate it with games a little bit more. And I think that's what's happening here. So they're getting a boost because they're in a category that's, according to the algorithm, more relevant to this particular keyword when you're not. There's probably a way around it. If I think there are some modifications that you have to make. This is kind of an advanced type of a thing, so maybe I'll follow up later in a comment in the video. I want to take a closer look and see what other keywords are being used by these apps, and if maybe there's a better keyword for you to aim for that will accomplish the exact same thing and get you to a higher rank. So that's a different thing. I initially thought maybe this has something to do with Zoom, the app Zoom, but I don't know if that's the case. So something to look into. This is pretty interesting. Okay, let's continue. Let's see what we have on our list. Here I am again, and where is my trusty screen? I have too many things on my screen, but continuing. Let's see. So Noor is saying, thanks for the awesome content. You're welcome. Make sure to subscribe and give it a like. I've noticed that when an app uses a keyword I'm targeting and fully optimized for as its app name, Apple seems to give it a boost. Is that true? Absolutely. Absolutely. The one thing that you always want to make sure is the keyword that is most important, and that could be one word, that could be 2 words, shouldn't be 3, but if it has to for whatever reason, 3 words, that should be in your name. The name is the most important by far. There's nothing more important to the algorithm than the name. If you think about it, there's also a reason Apple tends to say use the app name to describe your app. Now, they don't say it like that. They kind of make it seem like you should just use your branded app name. But realistically, if a potential user reads on the App Store, going through a list of apps in search results, what an app does in the name, they're more likely to get it. And that's really what you want to aim for. So that's what I would say about this. And yes, absolutely, always have your most important keyword as in the name of your app. And that's true for Google as well. Okay, an interesting question. Are you able to use competitor brand keywords in your keyword list without punishment? So yes and no and maybe. It isn't something I would recommend. It's something that I would recommend against if we're looking at it from a very technical standpoint. And that is because, and I assume when you say brand keywords, their name, if you use a competitor name in your keyword list, one, you're not going to rank very high because there's another app with that exact same name that's likely in the app's name, what I was just saying. So they're going to get the #1 position in most cases. Not in all cases. There are a whole bunch of weird nuances for that. But if someone is searching for a brand by name, if I'm looking for Coca-Cola, I'm probably not going to download a Pepsi app. That's a lot less likely than me going into the App Store and looking for an app for a soft drink, if we're following this example. So realistically, by doing that, you're just wasting a keyword, because even if you rank second, and you could rank second, but even if you rank second, you're unlikely to get the download. And that's going to mean that your app is going to drop over time, and that's going to hurt your overall download. So don't waste your characters on a brand name. You could if you wanted to. So if you really want to experiment, I'm not going to say no. I'm going to say use one of the 10 localizations in the US that can be used, and make sure that that's the only thing that you do there. You focus it on competitor brand names and try that. Probably a waste of time. I would not waste my time on that, but if you really, really want to, that's how I would do it, and that's the safest way to use this. Okay, this is a weird question. I don't think I've ever seen this question ever. David says, hey, hello. What do you think about not filling all space in keyword field? Oh, okay, I misread that originally. So I'm all for not taking up all the space just for the sake of taking up all the space. And the reason is, it all comes down to focus. The algorithm gives you, if you can think about it that way, 100% of its attention. 100% is split across the name, the keyword list, and the subtitle. But it's not really split across them as evenly. It's split across all the content that you put in them. So if you put all the characters in the name, that's 30 characters, 30 characters in the subtitle, and 100 characters in the keyword list, smoosh all of them, you have 160 characters. The algorithm gives 100% to 160 potential characters. So the fewer characters you have, the more of that percentage each one of these characters will have. We're getting very technical here, but the idea is the less you give the algorithm, the more it will think those keywords are really, really important. And it kind of makes sense. I mean, if you were to build one of these, if you were a developer, you'd probably do the same. I would do the same, because I don't really want to go off of an average. I want to go off of exactly what the user gave me that's what's probably going to make it the most applicable to my users, App Store users. So yes, if you focus, only use the keywords you need. Now, if you need all 100 characters, definitely do it. If you don't fill it up just for the sake of having more keywords. If you are focused, you will get better results. And because you can use localizations, you can make sure that you use fewer keywords in each localization that are really focused. And that's how you win with the localization trick and App Store optimization when it comes to focus. Okay. Noor's asking follow-up question that I don't think is related. If my app is in pre-order status, does my 7-day boost start counting, or only when it becomes available? Do app updates get boosts too? So I'm not entirely. So it's a complicated question. The boost for the 7 days, from everything I have seen, starts when the app makes it to the App Store, not when you add it to the App Store. So your pre-order is safe and it will be fine. This is such a good thing to do, to put an app in a pre-order. I think that's the best tool that Apple could have given developers to get more downloads and have that initial splash on the first week, really on the first few days, really, really big. Not just good for the algorithm and downloads, but also really good for people. The more people that see you on launch day, the more word of mouth can spread, and the more you can get more publicity. So definitely use pre-order if you can, Apple and Google. But as far as updates don't get as big of a boost. I think they get a little bit of a boost, but that boost usually gets normalized out because everyone is doing something. It's you probably get a bigger boost from having an in-app event, or from promoting your in-app purchase, your subscription, more so than from updates. That's what I've seen. Okay, and now we're getting to questions that came in after we started talking about T. Leonora is asking, how does category names work for ASO on the App Store and Google Play? How should I use them in metadata? Yeah, example, games, books, parenting, etc. So from what Apple says, and from what I've seen on Google, and from what I've seen on Apple in general, the name of the category does get shuffled into the mix of metadata that the stores look at when they look at your app. They look at your developer name, they look at a whole bunch of things in addition to the app name, subtitle, and keyword list. The only thing is, it doesn't really get a lot of meaning across all of those. So the name gets all the juice, the keyword list gets the least of the metadata. The category and the developer name, from what I've seen, are much lower. I think what Apple's doing is they've transitioned to associating keywords with specific categories kind of loosely, and that's what I believe is happening a lot more than the name of the category just being a keyword in your keyword list that Apple just shoves it, or Google, even though that's what Apple says. But I don't think that's the case. So I would test using them. Something like games is extremely generic, and even if you try ranking for games, you're probably not going to be successful. And the reason is Apple also tends to rank for very generic keywords that are category names, the top apps as the results. And they're the top apps from the last few days. They're not as up to date. And so it's going to be really tough going against all the big spenders on games because they already have the downloads. They have the downloads, they get them to the top of their category, which will get them to the top of search results for very generic category names. So really, I would say don't spend that much time on generic keywords like games. Parenting, on the other hand, that's something I would experiment with. I think it's going to be a little bit more challenging, but I would definitely experiment with using that as a keyword. It's not going to be considered duplication from what I know. So give it a try in one of your localizations at least. Okay, so Philip is asking, and I've brought this up already a few times, please speak to the use of secondary localizations to boost US App Store optimization. So this is something that I've been talking about for years now, but still not enough people have caught up with. And I have a guide on this that explains exactly what to do and which languages and what you need to do to take advantage of this. So I'm just going to go through this briefly, and we'll drop a link to that in the description later on. So the idea is that Apple takes 10 languages, 10 localizations, reads all of them, and uses all of them to show relevant apps in search results in the US specifically. This is specific to the US and specific to the App Store. And the reason Apple does that is because in the US, there's so many communities that are still speaking a language that is not English, and Apple wants them to be able to find apps very, very easily, something that makes a lot of sense. The thing is, if you don't use all these languages to localize your own app, you don't have to use those languages in those localizations, and you can use English. Apple doesn't actually care what language is inside those localizations. They just read all the keywords and use them. So some of those languages include Russian and I believe Chinese. What else is on there? A few others. I believe French is on there. And so if you use English keywords in your French localization, for example, you can rank for these as if you put them in your English localization. Now, there are 10 of those. I think Vietnamese is also on the list. So it means that instead of the 160 characters I mentioned before, you now have 10 times that. A few quirks that you should know about before is that Apple doesn't merge languages. So if you put a keyword in English, you should use it again in a different language if you want that to combine. So let's say you have fitness at home is a keyword that you want to target, and you have fitness and home in your English localization, and you want to use fitness equipment, let's say, in your French localization, you also need to include the word fitness along with equipment in order for that to work. The good thing about it is there's no duplication, so you can use as many keywords across all of them to build different sets, and because all of the keywords get mushed together, you can use the same one multiple times. But just like with English, do not use the same keyword in the name and subtitle, the name and keyword list. That is duplication. So the same rules that apply for everything apply here as well. And use focus. So don't use more keywords than you absolutely have to. And that's really what it is. We'll include a link to the guide so you see all the languages. I don't remember them anymore. It started with 1, and then it was 5, and now it's 10. So definitely something that I would highly recommend using. I use for the apps that I talk to, including our own app, at least 4 of those localizations. You don't have to use all 10. That's a lot of keywords, and that takes forever. But at least 2 or 3 to experiment with ideas, try different things, and also add more keywords. Super useful, super amazing. Okay. Let's see. If the Play Store full description is completely changed, can it lead to any problems? Should it be changed only in small parts? Thank you. You're welcome. That really depends. So the way the Play Store works, the Google Play long description works in this case, is Google does what it does to websites-ish on the description. So unlike Apple, where you give it a list of keywords, Google will read and attempt to understand what the context of keywords are from your long description. That means that they really read every single word and they try to find the combination. Here you need repetition because the things that you repeat most, Google sees are as most important. To a point, of course, there is a cutoff where it just becomes spam, and we have a tool that will tell you exactly what is considered spam and what isn't for your description or for any competitor, which you can go check out. I keep pointing at this because this is where my screen is. My other mini screen is. So with changing the description, there are 2 things that are going on. If you change the description completely, minding you that you have to have repetition and you have to have full-on sentences and descriptions because it actually reads it. Google knows how to do that from the web. Apple doesn't do that at all. And so if you change it completely, just like what happens on the web, it will need to start from scratch and really build everything up again. You don't really want to do that unless you absolutely have to. But keep in mind that the most important bits of the long description on Google Play are the beginning. And so if you have a very long description because you wanted to make sure users know about all your features and you wanted to put as many keywords as possible and repeat them as many keywords as many times as needed, then if you modify the lower portion of your Google Play description again and again and again, it'll probably be okay as long as you keep the top really focused, really good, and doesn't change as often. I've been saying that I'm going to write a guide on how to do Google Play description optimization for a long time. I think that guide is really overdue, so keep an eye out for an email about a new guide that I'm going to be releasing in the near future. Interesting question, but first, some tea. Rizwan was asking, does peer group impact app/games downloads and rankings? I'm not entirely sure what you mean here. So if I had to guess, I would say yes and no. The yes part is you're always really being compared against the apps that are trying to optimize for the same keywords. If we're talking about search ranks, so yeah, I'm not sure about. I'm gonna try and answer it. If that's not the right answer, let me know in the comments, in the chat. But the apps that you're competing against are the apps that are optimizing for your keywords. So yes, the peer group that is optimizing for you are your competitors, and they're trying to take your rank away because ranks are unique. You can only be, there's only one rank number 1, rank number 2, rank number 3. So they're trying to take that away constantly. Yes. On downloads, yes, I mean, it's the same thing. It's a category, so Apple decides who your peer is and who isn't, or you decide when you select Apple or Google, when you select your category, but that's what I think the answer is. I'm going to go to the next one, and we'll see if we can come to this again. Is there a lot of background noise for everyone? It's very possible that there is background noise. For some reason, construction started in my building just now, and I don't know if it will stop, but hopefully you can still hear me, and hopefully it's good enough, and we'll continue from here. And if there's too much noise, please let me know. Leonardo again, what's the best approach for long-tail keywords, especially the ones with stop words? Suppose that the keyword with stop word is more popular. For example, learning games for kids versus kids learning games. Interesting. So first of all, stop words are words that the algorithm drops before trying to understand what your app does. And one of those is for. I have a list of those as well in a guide, which I will attempt to remember to link to in the description later after the video is done. So your stop words are words that the algorithm will definitely just ignore. There's really no other way to optimize for them. You can put them in your keyword list or in the name or in the subtitle on the Apple side. They're just not going to work because the algorithm drops them. Realistically, as long as you make sure that you're optimizing for both learning and games and kids, you should be fine. And this actually explains the first question that you asked. So that's what I would do. Maybe in this case, I would try putting games in the keyword list. I don't love saying this, but it's definitely worth an experiment. A lot of this is experimental. A lot of this is the kind of thing that might work for you and may not work for 99% of other apps on the App Store. So give it a try, and I would love to hear how it comes out if it actually works. But realistically, target all of the words in a long tail keyword to the best of your ability. That's how it would work. Okay, so next question. Launching a new app this weekend. Nice. Currently on pre-registration. Nice. I tried ASO research with Appfigures. Amazing tool. Thank you. But I'm new to this. How my ASO looks to you? App positive affirmation uplift. Well, let's take a quick look. This is not an app teardown, but I'm actually curious. Although, if you're launching it this weekend, I can't look at the app. So let's just look at the name that you gave me. Positive affirmations uplift. So in theory, this is great because it puts the actual brand at the end. The end is gets less juice from the algorithm, but it's also, the name is not as competitive. Now, there are many apps with the name Uplift that I can even think about, so it's a little bit more competitive, but you have a bigger problem here. And your bigger problem here, affirmations, it's super competitive. Everyone wants to get that because there's so much money in affirmation apps, and the effort that goes into making them is not as much as making a game or making other types of apps. I'm not meaning that in any bad way, but I even looked at making one of those, so I have an app for apps for optimization. But what you would do if you're just launching, unless you have a big launch planned, you want to go for a long tail keyword, what Leonardo was hinting at before. So ideally, what I would do is look for a keyword that is not as competitive within this big group of positive affirmations and affirmation apps and affirmation widgets and things that have to do with affirmations, and that's what I would target. Now, the same goes for Google Play. Go and look for a keyword that may have a lower competitiveness score overall, but is also pretty relevant. Now, here what I would try and do is I would try to find a keyword opportunity. And keyword opportunities are actually really cool. So a keyword opportunity is a keyword that is somewhat popular, and that can be anything above, I would say a 20, but really depends on the type of app and the range of keywords. So a somewhat popular keyword where the top of the results don't actually have the keyword fully in their name. And this works really well on the App Store because Apple doesn't really care about the description. And what you would do is then go into that category, optimize for that exact precise keyword, and you can rank quickly. Now, not a lot of opportunities exist, so you may not be able to find any that are relevant for your app. But if you can, that's what I would spend my time researching. Otherwise, this looks pretty good to me. We can switch to my computer. Let's switch to the computer and take a look at what affirmations looks like, just so you get an idea. But let's see. We're looking for positive affirmations. So at 25, not too bad. This might actually be the opportunity I was thinking about. I may have been wrong. I thought that this would be a little bit more competitive, to be very honest. So what we're looking at here is a potential opportunity, and you might be onto something, my friend. So you see how the top here, those top apps don't have any sort of positive affirmations in the name, affirmations in the subtitle on the second app, and affirmations in the name and positive in the subtitle. So this one is going to be a little bit difficult, but you still have some opportunities here. Considering how awful the bottom is, and we're looking at single, maybe double, maybe triple digits, but nothing in the thousands, this might actually work. Alrighty, I take what I said initially back. I think you did it right. Thank you for using our tools properly in the way they were intended to. Continuing, next time when I look at a keyword, I'm going to look it up first. Instead of, and you see, this is actually a good thing because when it comes to App Store optimization, there are all these intuitions, and the more you do this, the more your intuition will be better. It's never going to be perfect, even for me, as you can tell. So make sure you look at the data and look at the tools before you make bigger decisions like what to optimize for, something that you can't easily undo. Okay, let's see what is next on our list of questions. Okay, Leonardo is asking, if I don't use any keywords in the keyword field, does my title and subtitle get more weight? And the answer is nope. That's something that I tested a few years ago in some of the in some of my guides. I don't know if you remember that from a long time ago, but it turns out that if you don't have any keywords in the keyword list, the whole thing gets omitted, but it doesn't apply the same juice that would have gotten if you were to smush all of them together to it. It's the same thing with a subtitle. And I'm not sure if it's because Apple has some sort of a minimum weight that they have to assign to each individual component, or if they penalize you for not having a keyword list, so not wanting to tell them where your app is. I know they penalize you when you don't have a subtitle, because that's also something I tested. Back in the day, in the before days, you could have an app that doesn't have a subtitle. It wasn't a requirement. And if you launch your app without a subtitle, you wouldn't be penalized back in the day. So there are apps today that don't have a subtitle because they haven't been updated in a million years, or they haven't been changed enough in a million years. And those apps are actually getting a little bit of a boost because they don't have it. But I tried to do the same thing by removing the subtitle, and that actually made things considerably worse. So I would not recommend doing that for the keyword list or for the subtitle. Make sure that you have something. And again, you can focus. So it doesn't have to be very long. It doesn't have to be very crazy, as long as you have it. So that's what I would say. Okay, follow-up question from Philip. Given what you said about a keyword concentration / focus, please speak to the use of secondary localizations to boost USA. So I think I answered, so we will continue. Philip is asking, how does focusing work? The lesser, the better. So let's say I'm trying to rank for 3 keywords. Should I keep the subtitle and keyword list short and put everything important in the title? Yes, absolutely. Now, it's pretty rare that you would only want to go for 1 or 2 or 3 really specific keywords. There's always a little bit more. So I would still focus the name on it. Now, it really depends on the keyword. So if one of the words is, let's say, the base of several keywords. So for example, going back to my fitness keywords from before, if you want to do fitness at home and fitness equipment, you can use equipment and at home in your either name or subtitle or keyword list, but fitness should definitely be in the name because that's going to get the most of the juice from the algorithm. So if you know that you want to target both fitness at home and fitness equipment, you can put equipment in the subtitle and put fitness at home as your name, and that will give you the most juice for fitness at home, but also a significant amount for fitness equipment, which is very different than if you didn't put that in the name. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, continuing. Whoa, there are a lot of questions in here. I'm going to try and go faster. Let's see if I can do that. If the US store offers 10 localizations, why not use them all? But as you noted, using many keywords and localizations can reduce keyword quality, so it's best to focus on the main ones. Kind of. So if you can and have the time, and if you can find enough keywords to fill up 10 localizations, you should definitely do it. If you're focusing and you're not filling them up to the brim, that should be a lot easier. I always run with 3 or 4. It depends on how many experiments I want to run. So I'll have 3 or 4 that have, maybe 2 or 3 that have all of my main keywords. I do that with Appfigures. I recently tweeted how successful the Longtail is, and that's what I do under the hood. And then I use something totally crazy. Like, I'll come up with a crazy idea. Can we localize? Can we optimize the Appfigures app for something very, very specific that has to do with maybe a metric name and a type of a use case? And those are ideas that normally I wouldn't necessarily want to have in my main English localization, because if they don't work out, I'm just losing out, and I could be losing out on visibility coming from good keywords. Instead, I'll throw that into the Vietnamese localization, which is probably in my list of localizations, the right localization for experimenting with crazy stuff. And so that's what I would do. If you can fill up 10 localizations with a bunch of crazy stuff, a mix of crazy stuff and good keywords, I don't think you can lose. You're not going to dilute your keywords. But then again, at the same time, make sure you're not optimizing for stuff where you're not going to get the user to see it and click on it. You want to make sure that all of your keywords are relevant. Always make sure the keywords are relevant. To me, that's the most important thing. And I think as a user, when I see an app in the App Store that I didn't search for, there's no way I'm going to download it. I think the number of curious users that are just browsing the App Store and searching for specific things, the overlap between those two circles is none. So I would not do that. I answered this question, but I'll answer it again. If I have extra localizations in the US, for the US, does repeating keywords across localizations give them more weight? Nope. Actually, I didn't answer this. This is a slightly different twist on it. It doesn't. Each localization is completely independent. That's why you can duplicate between them, but not inside of them. All right, next. I've launched a journaling app. Journaling is another pretty competitive category. It currently has a 4.6 rating in France, but my ranking have been stable for 3 months. How many downloads a day should I aim to get the app to top 3 in France or USA? That's kind of challenging, but what I would do in order to answer that question is, let me go and use a different tool. What you want to do is you want to figure out how many downloads does it take to get to the top of your category. So let's see, this is journaling. Which category is journaling in? Well, let's see. Let's look for journaling. And I will remind everyone that the number of downloads you have does not get you to the top of search results in any category. It's the number of combination of ratings and how you optimize your keywords. When I read this initially, I thought you were talking about the category rank for journal. And if you are talking about the category rank, I would go look at top apps, look at who's the #1 app in the category, and see how many downloads it gets using our download estimates. That's where I would aim at least. If you're looking for search, in search, it's really, again, about the number of ratings and the way you optimize your keywords, which is what I've been saying all day long today. So if we're looking here at journaling, this is really interesting. So you see journaling here. This app does not have journaling in the name. This app does not have journaling in the name. They have a journal, and the App Store is a little bit too clever for its own good in some cases, so it may have combined journal and journaling. It doesn't do that very often. It's pretty rare, but it could be that this is what's happening here. Journal with lock, journal. So if you wanted to compete in this category, it's going to take somewhere in this vicinity. So make sure that you're in the hundreds of new ratings, and I would say above 500 would be my guess to get close to this. Now, around 500 is actually less than what you see on this, so it's not always the number exactly. Keep in mind this is over time, and you can see the fluctuations over here. So it's not a matter of just the total, it's how it's spread out. And so I would aim for at least 500-600 for, and this is the US. I have a feeling that France is going to be a little bit lower. Let's see what France is like. Quickly. Oh, you're not even seeing my computer. Oops. So this is France, and now you can see what I'm talking about. Screen is shared now. So this is France, and in France we have just a handful of new ratings. I think this is not going to be too challenging. In the US, which is what I was talking to myself about before, it's actually considerably higher. So back to the US, we have in the hundreds, and this is the way that they're spread out. So aim for 500, 600 in the US minimum in order to get into this list. And then in France, it would be under 100, and you'll probably be fine. Okay, continuing. Back to me. So let's see what's next on the list. We still have a few minutes, so we can continue. Okay, so next question. I've tried not using all the characters to be more focused. However, I got abysmal results. Compared to many keywords, is there a trick to how to pull it off? Yes and no and maybe. So the idea of focus is really a foundational idea. Just removing keywords is not necessarily going to give you better ranks. It's the thing that could enable you to get better ranks, but it's not necessarily going to give you those ranks right out of the gate. So what you need to do is you still need to make sure that you can actually target those keywords, that they are feasible by looking at the number of ratings, by looking at the competition, and then make sure that you do your keyword optimization as properly as possible. That's what I would aim for. A follow-up. I just changed to supporting more localizations and keywords recently and got 4 times the downloads. Hooray! Let's see if I have an animation for this. Yes, hooray! That's actually really cool. The idea that a single keyword, you should optimize for a single keyword, and that single keyword will take you all the way to glory and awesomeness, is usually not true for most apps. There's some apps where 1 or 2 keywords are going to be the only keywords you need and you will succeed. But in the case of most apps, it's really going to be about how many opportunities you give your potential users to find you on the App Store or on Google Play. People, when they search, they don't necessarily search for the same thing. So if you're thinking of your app as fitness at home, some other people might think of your app as workout at home, and some people might think of just workout on the floor. Different people have different ideas of how to express what they need. The more you can give them, the more opportunities you have, the more keywords that you're optimizing for, the more chances you are to have those people find you. So that's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing. All right, Adir's asking, in the last year or so, I saw apps with repeated keywords in the title, subtitle, the cardinal sin, it is, ranked in the top 3. Do you think it's still relevant? Absolutely. And I've seen those too. It really depends. There are many reasons why this would be okay, but the way that the algorithm puts together the metadata, the name, the subtitle, the keyword list in the example of Apple, is that, and the kind of quirk to that is the way it does the repetition. If you don't have a lot of keywords, they will kind of eat each other out. They will cancel each other out. And then you're going to end up with something really, really focused on one keyword. It's going to end up in the subtitle, technically, if you're duplicating between the name and the subtitle. But because there isn't much else going on, you'll probably be okay. And I think that's how more of these apps are getting away with this. There is another element to App Store optimization, and that is your conversion rate. Something I don't talk about enough. I don't talk about enough because that's not something you should influence. That's something that if you wanted to go black hat and try to modify the way the store is, that's what you would do. You would try to get more people to see your app and download your app. Now, there's kind of a natural relationship between people seeing your app and not downloading your app, and that's okay, and the store knows that that's normal. When it sees that a little bit more than the average download your app, it thinks you're amazing. a little bit more than the average, you're really good and it will give you a boost. The only thing is once Apple catches on to you, they will pull your app from the store, and then you're going to be in trouble and you're going to have to go on Twitter and ask people to help you because Apple is not going to allow you back into the store and give you money. Don't do that. It's not worth the risk, even if some people are getting away with it, and some people are. In my opinion, it's not worth the risk. So continue with the same mindset. The duplication is still the cardinal sin, and I've seen more than enough developers actually succeed by following these rules. Another follow from Leonardo. This is a conversation between me and Leonardo. I hope you're having fun. What about long-tail keywords that include the category name? So we talked about that before. That was your other question. I think it makes sense, and I would recommend to experiment. That's really what I would say. Okay, next up. Hello. Hi. I would also want to ask, what happened if I download an app from Google Play Store and it blocks notifications whereby I can't even open to reset them? What could have happened and how do I handle? I am not entirely sure what this question means, and I don't think it really pertains to App Store optimization, so I'm going to continue. But if you can clarify in the chat, please do. Inspire is asking, hi Ariel. So for app names, is it better to use a longer app name? Yes and no. I don't think it is. I think ultimately, the more you focus, the better it is. If you're thinking about an app name as in your brand, the shorter your brand is, the better, because it will afford you the opportunity to use more characters for keywords, and that's what I would do. But that's kind of how I would approach it. Leonardo continues with, I have noticed that most keywords like read also rank for reading form, and that's what we saw before with journaling. So I know that the algorithm pluralizes. I know that it sometimes does the ings. It doesn't always do it from what I've seen. It's possible that's becoming more common, but I haven't seen that many other instances, and that doesn't work in many other languages, most other languages. So normally I wouldn't use that as a crutch to not have to use journal versus journaling or journaling versus journal in there. So I would continue to tackle both, target both. You can tackle and target them. That works. More background noise. So apparently the construction in my building is annoying everyone. I'm sorry. I tried to stop them. I really did, but that didn't work. They're drilling something in the walls. I think they're cleaning something. Yes, we do. That's exact. I didn't try to stop the workers. I tried to stop their bosses. I failed miserably, unfortunately. They will stop, I bet you, as soon as I'm done. And we have 12 more minutes on this. In 12 minutes, they're probably going to go take a break. And that break is going to last at least an hour. But that's just how it is. Hopefully you can still hear me well enough for me to answer your questions. I'm sorry about the noise. Hopefully it doesn't happen in the next one. So now I have to do this again, just without the noise. Okay. So I mentioned conversions. How does that factor in ranks for Google Play and the App Store? Is it general score or per keyword? It's a combination. I think overall apps have a per keyword conversion, but also conversion. And so if you have keywords that are working better and keywords that are working less better, the algorithm will understand that's the normal. If you have extremes, it will know that something weird is going on, and it will deprioritize them to the point where eventually it will probably get someone to look at you and make sure that those are not being manipulated. The key with Apple is avoid manipulation. If you're doing something and it makes sense, it can still be seen as manipulation. But if they do anything, you can say, I didn't do anything on purpose. If you do something on purpose, they will know and they will find you. And I've heard too many stories of even large companies who know people at Apple and have been around for a long time, even them getting penalized. And that's not something you want to be in. Any tips for taking on Apple or Google's own apps? No, unfortunately, and this has been documented over the years, they just get better ranks. I'm pretty sure, and I wrote this in some of my keyword teardowns a while back, that Apple has this policy of their apps have to rank for their main keywords, a very focused few of main keywords, either in position 1 or position 5. That has changed since I wrote it. And I don't know if it's because they realize that people are now noticing this or something else, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of it is more hard-coded than it is organic. It's pretty tough. What I would do is don't try to target their main keywords. So fitness, for example, do not try to beat the fitness apps, or notes, do not try to beat the notes app, or music, do not try to beat the music app. Go for slight variations. So for notes, note taking, or better notes, or something with notes that I would derive off of the data, go in Inspector and see what else can be done with notes. Same thing for music, same thing for fitness. So don't try to compete with the one keyword that you know they really want to have, because there's probably a line in the code of the App Store somewhere that says if fitness, then fitness app. That's just how it is. And if Apple is on this, is listening in, please tell me I'm wrong. I would love to hear that that's not the case. You know my email. Okay, continuing. Let's see. A few that I don't necessarily understand. And then, okay, an easy one. Darina is asking, can I use the keyword free in the keyword list, or is it a stop word? So free gets eliminated completely. I think it's both a stop word and something that Apple doesn't like at all. I would say don't use it. I think I've heard some people getting rejected because of it. I don't know if that's a normal case, though. It doesn't happen that often. Okay, so Leonardo is continuing. I tried creating a custom store listing for Google Play for specific keywords, but they don't show up in my app. I'm ranked top 5 in them. What's the best strategy to make them appear? Should I run ads? It's Google, so maybe. Google is pretty tricky about what they will do and won't do, but a lot of it is also determined by Google. So read your reviews and make sure those keywords that you're putting in there align with your reviews. There is a direct relationship between reviews and keywords in Google Play. So yes, if you manipulate your reviews and you have specific keywords in your reviews, you will rank better for them. Again, just like I was saying about Apple, not something I would advise to do. I have seen cases where it does work. I have seen cases where competitors left bad reviews, not necessarily bad by number of ratings, but with keywords that confuse the algorithm or awful and kind of go against the algorithm, and apps were penalized for it. So it's a pretty Wild West type, but I would not touch it. So ideally, make sure that your keywords are relevant. Keywords are relevant enough to the description, to everything else that that Google Play can see about your app, and that's how you would get them to appear. Angelina is asking, I see an app take first place for a few keywords with traffic in my niche overnight. The chart shows 350 ratings in a single day with 1 review. What do you think they're doing? Would their strategy last? They're probably buying reviews, and they're probably buying downloads, which is awful. And Apple is doing, I don't know if this is on the App Store and Google Play, Apple's doing a ton to combat that. I know not enough, because I hear about this more often than I would like in general. On Google Play, it doesn't happen as much because Google Play is inherently much slower to rank apps, where Apple is considerably faster. So you don't see that as much, although there is a ton of manipulation on Google Play as well. But that would be my guess. Now, it's probably, if the rate is 1 to 350, it doesn't mean that it's 100% fake. It could be that they're just doing a really good job at getting people to leave a rating. Do you know how many, if you know how many downloads they have, and you know their DPR, if their DPR is something insane, that's something I would look at. So if they had exactly 350 downloads and got exactly 350 new ratings, maybe something there is a little bit hokey. But if it's anything in the below 1,000, or I don't know, 1,000 to 1,500, that could be okay. That could mean that they're just doing a really good job. Maybe they had a pre-order open, or maybe they just forced a lot of their users, reminded them through notifications, which you shouldn't do, but maybe, to leave a rating. So it is possible, but a spike like that usually means that something was manipulated with conversion rate. That would be my guess. If you drop the keyword or the app name, I can take a look and then follow up in the comments, which I will try to do for more of these questions. We have quite a few more that I didn't get to. We only have 6 more minutes. Another reminder that if you like what I'm doing here, give this video a like. That's live stream. It's not even a video. I mean, there is a video camera, but it's a live stream. As I continue to, do I have this? Let's see. Yes, you see? Even the finger reminds you. But let's see. I will continue to answer questions for a few more minutes, and then we'll wrap it all up. And I will continue this again in a follow-up live stream. I'm thinking of doing at least one of these every month where it's an open Q&A. If you like that idea, let me know in the comments below. Not in the chat, because the chat will eventually go and I won't see it. But in the comments, this way I can keep that in mind for later when I'm done here. Okay, so follow-up from Philip. Given what you said about brand name as last item in app name, how would you advise revising freedom, screen time control, block apps, and limit distractions? So let's see. I imagine freedom is the actual, or is what you are targeting as the brand. That's kind of challenging because it's kind of a generic keyword, so you will have more competition, but also people may not understand. But then the real thing is, when someone is looking for screen time control, are they typing screen time control, or is there something else? So I think app blocking or block apps is probably something they look at more. So if you don't have to do this, I would say block apps with freedom or something along those lines. That's just something I thought about really quickly. Look at the popularity, look at the number of ratings, and see if that actually fits with everything you're trying to accomplish. So go for what's really, really necessary, and then stick on it the name of the app, because screen time control by freedom is probably something that is super easy to go for, and that's what I would recommend without looking at anything else. But I have a feeling that block apps, and again, look at the data, don't just trust what I'm saying now because I haven't looked at the data on the screen that I didn't share. But make sure that the thing you're targeting is really the thing people are looking for, and you can see that by their popularity. But yeah, something like screen time control by freedom or block apps with freedom, something like that is how I would do it. A question from X. Wow, we have X in the house. I think this is the first question that's coming from X. We're live streaming on YouTube on X in 2 accounts, my account and the Appfigures account, and also on LinkedIn, but normally all the questions come from YouTube. So I'm glad to see people are asking questions on X, and I hope you're still around for this, because I know X is a little bit more fleeting. But let's go back to the question. So David is asking, our product is very popular on the web, but not very popular on mobile. Our SEO is super strong, but for some reason we can't crack the ASO for our app. Our app is Lingopi. We are a language. Wait. All right, so that cut off, I imagine, because it's coming from X. But a language learning app would be my guess. And if that is the case, because what we see with Duolingo, it's a pretty competitive category. So really what this is there isn't a trick to taking your SEO and making your ASO work. They're completely different. I spent many, many, many years doing SEO work, and I've cracked the code back in like the early 2000s. Yes, I'm that old. And I was really young. And figured out many, many things that changed over time, but all of them are completely different than what Apple is doing these days. Google, maybe a little closer, but it's totally different. I did a live stream with Kurt from Willow Tree about the difference between SEO and ASO, because they did the same thing. They're an agency, and they went from understanding SEO very well to also being able to do ASO. And we talked about the differences, the similarities, the pretend similarities. I would highly recommend watching it, and I will attempt to remember to link to it in the description below. Make sure you focus on ASO as ASO, not as SEO. It wouldn't work that way. Let's see. Next. Andre's asking, hi Ariel. Hello. Any insights on how the App Store treats keywords in Chinese and Japanese without spaces? For example, subject, leg separators, any advice on these languages? Unfortunately, I am not amazing at Chinese or Japanese ASO. That's an area of the App Store that I've not really tried to understand well yet. We added keyword translation across the entire platform a few months ago, and I have been doing more other languages. So eventually I will have a better idea and better intuition, but for now I don't have the right answer for you. I'm sorry. Okay, next. Chris is asking, hi Ariel. Hello, love using Appfigures. Great. I've gotten my downloads for my fitness app to about 100 downloads per month from using Appfigures. My question is, how can I take that to 1,000? App name Strength Log by Soma. Thanks. So fitness, again, is one of those extremely challenging categories. We're working on a new tool that allows us to visualize entire segments. And I recently looked at a subsegment of fitness, and man, it's so different. I compare that against AI apps, and AI apps are all the rage. We're working on a big report to show that. But if you look at the number of apps, and for AI apps, there are a lot of apps making money. You look at fitness, there are more apps making money. So it's one of those things that you have to find the right keywords. You have to find those opportunities, and that's a very iterative process. So if you grew to 100, that's great. Now you have to find what 100 new downloads means in terms of ratings and what that can actually give you, and what sort of keywords you can now grow into. So keywords that are a little bit more competitive. So do that iteratively. Every time increase the competitiveness a little bit, and when you increase the competitiveness, you increase the popularity, and that's how you get to even bigger keywords, or keywords that will drive more downloads. So that's how I would go about it. Continue to iterate and find more and more keywords. Longtail is really great for something that is that competitive, because if there are so many apps, you know that enough people are looking for it. And just like what I was saying before with fitness, it's really about the way people express what they want to do. It's not always the same. Try to find as many of those as possible. One of the tools I would use is the related tab inside of Keyword Inspector. So go and put fitness, let's see, what is this specific to? Blah, 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 strength log. So I assume some sort of maybe weightlifting is in there, some sort of strength training is in there. Maybe there's a calendar in there. Maybe there's a way for you to track something. I would try those combinations and then look at related keywords and see if there's anything that our AI thought of that it's seen on the App Store and Google Play and can give you some of those ideas. So keep looking for more keywords and iterating over them. That's how I would do, and keep going up a little bit at a time as you get more downloads, and that's how you're going to get from 100 to 500, from 500 to 1,000, and on and on and on. And I think that's all the time we have for this. Let's see. I didn't get any questions about Apple search ads today. Only organic, which is cool. I can answer both. But maybe we'll get more of those next time we do this. So again, I want to do this about once a month. If you like that idea, let me know, just so I have an understanding of, will you come back and ask more questions in a month? I know Leonardo will, and that's always appreciated. So that's pretty much all I had for you. If I had to take a few things away from this, is no duplication. Use your localizations to the best of your ability, and also make sure that you are focusing your keywords and you're keeping them relevant. If you took anything from this and you took these 3 or 4 things, I think you're going to do very well. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoy this. Come back for the next one. We're doing another one. The next one is going to be an interview in a couple of weeks. So keep an eye out on the newsletter for more. And that's all I have for you today. I will say goodbye, and hope that as soon as I leave, the noise will end, because I don't like it either. Alrighty, see you all in the next one.